Hello, and welcome to this edition of the Angels and Destiny show. Why is this show called this, you may ask? So I'll tell you. The accepted meaning of angel is messenger, and the accepted meaning of destiny is to make firm establish. So my guest and I bring you messages to establish what you need to know in the present. And of course, I like working with angels and the calmness they bring. Now, in a moment, I will introduce you to my wonderful guest, Vanessa Nixon. But before that, I'd like to say thank you so much for watching the show live at a later date, as it means a lot to me to connect with like minded people. Now, if you've never met me before, then my name is Ray, and I'm a guide who helps you remember your divine presence so that you can heal your past, create your future, and transform your present to raise your consciousness, understand your spiritual path, and take charge of your destiny so you can spread your wings and soar. I'm the founder of Radiant Angel Energy, and I use angelic Reiki, future life progression, past life regression, guided meditation, angel oracle cards, and divine presence to assist you in remembering why you are here, your spiritual path, and the clarity on the next steps to take. I also offer transformational packages, a journey through lifetimes, a 6-week guided meditation series to help you gain confidence, various workshops, and run retreats down in Glastonbury. Now, each episode of this show covers various themes of your journey, a mini guided meditation, like angel oracle card reading, with the wisdom of my wonderful guests, like today's guest, Vanessa Nixon, who'll be talking about how menopause is your spiritual initiation. Now, as a traditional naturopath and author, Vanessa Dixon is passionate about helping women thrive during the spiritual initiation of their menopausal journey. She is adept at attunement to natural health, invigorating dance and therapeutic movement, and teaching women to see their innate natural beauty. Now, after reimagining her life at the age of 50, Vanessa discovered a profound and deeply intuitive process that helped her to embrace her fabulous inner wise woman fearlessly. She now shares these powerful and ancient initiations with women in the US and beyond who want to reclaim vibrant good health in their own sacred midlife transit. Now, Vanessa lives in Pacific Northwest and is CEO of a natural cosmetics company. Get my teeth fixed today. Natural Look Mineral Makeup. Now, when she is not practicing in the realm of natural health and organic beauty, she's a professional belly dancer instructor. Now, with testimonials such as, I absolutely love Vanessa's listening superpower and how she's able to hone in on the specific menopausal health issues. She has the ability to reframe menopause for the midlife woman and help her align with easy, healthy, and holistic solutions that just make sense. And Vanessa is definitely a role model for this new, needed generation of healers. I've been inspired by her to take my health and well-being back into my own hands. She channels wisdom and ancient knowledge that is truly priceless information to have in your midlife health toolbox. So, without further delay, hello, Vanessa, and welcome to the Angels and Destiny show. How are you today?
Oh, thank you so much for having me here today, Ray. I'm really excited to be here speaking with you, and I'm having a fabulous day.
Excellent. So, before we get into this fascinating conversation, I want to remind you that not only can you share this video, but you can also ask questions, leave comments and thoughts, as both Vanessa and I want to be part of this conversation. So, please don't be shy. And George is here and says hello to all. Hello, George. So, Vanessa, why don't you tell us more about your journey and how menopause is a spiritual intuition? Sorry, a spiritual in initiation, but also I suppose it is an intuition as well.
Yes, actually, it is. That's a very integral part, I believe. Well, thank you for that question. My journey has been quite long, actually. It began when I was a teenager. And I really grew up eating a lot of junk food, processed food. I didn't know anything about nutrition, and I certainly didn't know that it could affect your health. And by the time I was 14 or 15, I was catching every cold that came around, probably about 6 times a year. I would get sick with a cold, and then it started turning into bronchitis every time that I was sick. And it would go deep into my chest. It was affecting my life. I'd have to stay home from school. Um, and miss out on activities with friends and extracurricular activities and things like that. And um, each time I got sick, it would be like an 8-week process before I was able to recover. And this was happening 6 times a year. So, doing the math, basically that meant I was sick all the time. And my mother had been a nurse previously, and so we were pretty deeply entrenched in conventional Western medicine. So every time I got sick, we'd go to the doctor, they'd prescribe antibiotics. And so pretty soon I was on antibiotics all the time. I was prescribed daily antibiotics when I was about 18 or 19 for years. And I don't know if you know anything about what antibiotics can do to your gut flora,
Mm-mm.
but my immune system was decimated because it had completely destroyed all of the good bacteria in my body as well as the bad bacteria. And so this had become a downward spiral of getting sick, the antibiotics lowering my immunity so that I would just be more likely to get sick again, and for the severity to continue getting more and more intense. And it continued through my early 20s until one day a friend of mine noticed that I was taking antibiotics every day. And he asked me a question that nobody in 6 or 7 years of chronic illness had ever asked me before. And it was just a simple question that turned everything around for me, or at least it began um, this major shift in my life. And that question was, well, is this helping? No doctor had asked me that. I had never asked myself that. But when I stopped and thought about it, I realized, actually, no, it's not helping. It's never helped. um, but I had never thought that there were any other options. But thinking about this one question kind of opened my brain to the possibility that, well, if this isn't working, maybe there's something else out there. Maybe there's another option, and maybe that option could work. So it really opened my mind to possibilities for the first time. And that same friend said, well, when I get sick, I go to see an herbalist, and I'd be happy to introduce you if you'd like. And so, sure enough, within a week or so, I was sick again, and I went to see an herbalist, and she gave me a formula for respiratory illness. And I was well in 2 weeks.
Wow.
So my recovery time went from 8 weeks to 2 weeks immediately, and that had never happened before. And I was hooked. That did it. I wanted to know everything there was to know about herbal medicine. And that's really where my journey in natural health began, because the more I learned, the more I wanted to learn, and the more I tried different herbs and different protocols, the better and better I felt. And I was able to heal myself of this chronic illness after, 7 years of being chronically ill through herbal medicine. Then that led me to the study of nutrition and nutritional healing. And that, up leveled my health even further. And then I went into some other natural modalities like homeopathy and flower essences. And eventually I got my degree as a traditional naturopath because I really wanted to be able to help other people in the same way that I've been able to help myself. And hopefully, they won't have to go through 7 years
Yeah.
of chronic illness before they are able to really take ownership, of their own health. And I think that that's a big part for me, is helping other women to understand that they can take ownership of their own health. They don't have to put their health into somebody else's hands. There are so many things that they can do to to take the responsibility, take back the reins of their own well-being, and up level and optimize their health and address whatever health concerns they might be dealing with. And
Yeah.
then later in my life, the next part of my journey came when I was in perimenopause. And, this was several years ago now. And, even after having studied health and women's health for so many years and worked with clients and taught classes and courses, I still didn't recognize that I was in perimenopause until I was having mood swings and emotional outbursts and thinking, why is this happening?
Yeah.
It took me a while to think like, wait a minute, what is going on here? Before I finally realized, oh, I guess I'm in perimenopause. And that also happened at a time in my life when many changes were going on, many things were shifting in my life. My marriage of 18 years was disintegrating. There was a lot of stress that came with that. My three daughters were growing up. One of them had already moved out of the house. And so, there was a lot of transition going on there. Um, Getting divorced at 49 years old, and then having to rebuild my life, moving to a new town, um, buying a house by myself for the first time in my life, and restarting my career as my children were moving out on their own and becoming an empty nester. All of these things were happening at the same time that I was going through menopause, and all of the internal changes that happen when you're going through menopause. And what I realized through that transition, because all of those things were happening externally and internally at the same time, I was under a ton of stress, a lot of stress. And the at times it felt very overwhelming. It
Yeah.
felt like, how am I going to make it through this? How I don't know the next steps. I don't know where I'm going to end up. It felt very confusing and disconcerting, and very stressful. And the turning point there for me was realizing that I had a lot of tools. I had so many, I had so much wisdom that I had gained over my life and all the experiences that I had. And I had so many tools and techniques that I had learned through my studies and through my experience with my clients. And I could rely on those things like I had when I first turned my health around as a young woman. I could rely on those things to help me get through this very stressful, challenging period of my life. And the second thing that I realized was that I had created a really strong network of supportive women
Yeah.
around me. And leaning into that, asking for support, asking for help, asking for them to just be there while I went through this challenging time, those were the two things that allowed me to be able to experience all of these changes and all of these shifts in my life and look at them not as negative or bad things that were happening, but look at them as opportunities. Like, what are these changes bringing into my life? How can I look at that and see what's opening up? If this part of my life is now being released, what am I able to bring in?
Yeah.
What's coming for me? What does this opportunity have in store for me? And what I realized in my life, and I've seen in many of my clients, then is that um, this journey of menopause is very similar for all women in that it opens up doorways, it opens up new possibilities and opportunities for us in ways that we wouldn't necessarily choose for ourselves.
Yeah.
But if we can use those tools that we have gathered throughout our life, if we can use our wisdom to really go in deeply, then we can create this next half of our lives in the way that we want, and in the way that we desire our life to look. We can really step into it very powerfully. And the in traditional Chinese medicine, they call menopause the second spring,
Yeah.
because it's like you're rebirthing yourself at this time of your life. You're creating a new life for yourself. And so I think that That's for me what this spiritual initiation is all about. It's using your intuition, using your inner wisdom to create this next chapter of your life in a really powerful, impactful way.
Yeah, and I think that's something that obviously in the West we kind of like really are bad at that. I mean, obviously the way it's been a very patriarchal system along the way. That's kind of like all the feminine stuff. Because if you think back to cunning women, the original witches, so to speak, it was always you went to the crone, which was where you had all that innate wisdom, all that knowledge, all that information, all that ability to be of service and to help others so much more. And of course, not caring as caring about what's going on around you. It's like, yeah, whatever.
Right, right. And I think that's this is how we all get to be the cunning women, the wise elders, the crone, the medicine women. I think that we all have that ancestral wisdom that lives on in us, even if we haven't been taught these things. In our modern society, we become very disconnected
Yeah,
to nature and to how nature can heal us. But I think we all have that ancestral wisdom. I think it still lives in all of us, especially as women, because we traditionally were the wisdom keepers
yeah,
of our villages, our tribes, our communities. And as you said, we were the ones that people would come to when they needed support. And but in order to gain that wisdom, we have to go through the things that we go through in our lives, and some of them are very challenging. And it's in that adversity that I think we grow the most and we gain the most wisdom. And so looking at that um, as a time of growth, as a time of really deepening our inner wisdom and our intuition, our connection to our inner wisdom is the key to being able to use these challenges as a spiritual initiation into what could be the most powerful time of our lives.
yeah, perfect. And to everyone who's watching, I know Claire's here and Louise is here and Malik's here, and I know there's some others that are watching that I can see. If you've got any questions that you want to ask Vanessa about the menopause, you've got an ideal person sitting there. Take this opportunity. If there's anything you want to know, about the menopause, and that because it is something that every woman will go through, some to more degrees than other degrees. Some women just literally sail straight through it. I mean, I never really had a perimenopause. I just went straight into menopause. Um, so I didn't know. So it's kind of like, oh, not getting periods anymore. Oh, that's good. Oh, I'm getting a little bit warm now.
Right, right. And it's so true. We have such a wide range of experiences. But it's true that, every woman that lives a certain amount of years of their lives will go through menopause. And I think that there's a piece there that I just want to speak to, and that is
Mm,
that in the past, in past generations, women didn't always live to menopause.
no.
Um, Here in the US, the statistics are that 200 years ago, the average lifespan for a woman was only 34 years old. That's only 200 years ago.
Yeah.
Most women were not able to experience menopause this time of their lives. They weren't ever able to get to that stage of being the wise elder. And just 100 years ago, the average lifespan was just 53. I'm turning 53 this year. It's like, that was the average lifespan of a woman 100 years ago in the US. And So still a lot of women didn't get to go through menopause or live through menopause. And so it was looked at as a death, really.
Yeah.
We have this kind of collective memory of menopause being like death because women didn't live past it, or not very long past it. And I think that because, as you mentioned earlier, we have been living under a very patriarchal society where women are not valued, and especially older women, more
Yeah.
mature women are not valued. We have these various levels of negativity associated with menopause. So I like to reframe that and think about it as something we get to experience when so many millions of women have never had that opportunity to experience going through this really potent, powerful time of their lives. And we get that opportunity. So I think it's really important to seize it, to seize the opportunity that we have, and how we can really bring out the magic of it. As you mentioned, women who were postmenopausal, those few women who did have a very long lifespan in the past, and they were the wise elders, they were the crones. Um, they were magic, you know? And which was one of the reasons why they were burned at the stake as witches. But we all have our own unique individual form of magic that we bring into the world. And I really believe that no matter how we express ourselves throughout our lives, we have a really unique moment in in this menopausal journey to expand that and make an even bigger impact with our magic in the world, because menopause forces us to really pay attention to our intuition and to really develop that inner wise woman. So yeah, I really encourage women to slow down and really focus on the messages that their bodies are sending to them during this time, and deepen their intuition so that they know, like, what do I really want in this next phase of my life.
Yeah. And Louise has said, "Hi, my doctor wants to put me on HRT as I've got fatigue and joint and muscle pain for months and able to work. Also wants to put back on statins for high blood pressure. My menstrual cycle ended over 5 years ago. I'd like to gain your view on alternative natural treatments. Thank you." And she also says that she takes pain meds for her neck and shoulder pain.
Yeah, yeah. Well, firstly, I have to say that, without a thorough, full intake, I can't give specific recommendations. However, there are lots of natural things that we can do to help us through this journey and to help us reduce or even eliminate any symptoms we might be having. And the first place to start is always with what you're eating, what you're consuming, what you're drinking. Um, we can heal so much nutritionally, and even for those people who have a pretty healthy diet, usually there are just a few little tweaks that can make a really big difference. Um, One thing that can be really helpful for women who are experiencing menopausal symptoms is to focus on consuming more foods that have natural plant estrogens called phytoestrogens. These are really gentle, natural building blocks that our bodies use to manufacture hormones. And so while our hormones are changing and shifting during this menopausal journey, consuming more phytoestrogens can help that shift become more smooth and balanced. And so there are lots of phytoestrogens in many foods. Most all plant foods have phytoestrogens because that's how they make their own hormones. Plants and humans are very, very similar. And it's one of the reasons why plant foods, why herbal remedies are work so well with us because our bodies recognize those building blocks. We
Okay.
have
Yeah.
some of the same building blocks, and so our bodies can assimilate natural plant foods and medicines much more completely. There's a synergy there that we don't find in synthetic pharmaceutical medicines. Um, and I want to say that I'm not against pharmaceutical medicine. It has its place, and sometimes it's life saving, but especially for chronic issues and for um, symptoms that come up through natural processes like menopause, the natural remedies work quite well. So foods and plants that contain lots of phytoestrogens are your beans and lentils. People for many many years have taken added soy to their diets because soybeans are very high in phytoestrogens. And I want to say that soy is great if it is organic and it's in a traditional form, but I do not recommend like all of the soy isolates that are being put into foods. That's not what I'm talking about with soy, but any of the beans and peas and legumes are really high in phytoestrogens as well as your leafy greens. So I have had clients come to me who just added tofu, traditionally made tofu.
Yeah, not the commercially shopped stuff that you put in your stir fry.
Yeah, yeah. And a couple of times a week, and that completely eliminated their their issues. For a lot of people, it's not as simple as that. One herb um, that has no contraindications or side effects that just about anybody could add into their diet is red clover. Drinking a strongly brewed red clover tea a couple of times a day gives you 10 times more phytoestrogens that you could get out of soy or any of the plant foods. So, red clover is one of the top herbs that I often go to for women who are suffering from um, you know a number of symptoms. It could be hot flashes, it could be brain fog, it could be fatigue, it could be insomnia. So definitely looking at the diet first, and then finding some herbs that are specific to that person. And again, without working with someone one on one, I can't give a
Yeah.
specific recommendation, but the liver herbs are really important to look at, and the adaptogenic herbs. Those are the two categories of herbs that I generally look at because the liver is usually really affected during menopause. Because the liver, as most people know, is a detoxification
Yeah.
organ. And when our hormones are fluctuating, the liver has to detox our hormones as well. So it often gets overloaded and sluggish. And so, really focusing on nourishing your liver. I don't like harsh cleanses or harsh detoxes because at this time of life, we don't need anything more harsh. We have lots of harsh things going on in our lives. We need nurturing, we need lots of self love and self care in a really nurturing way. And so, really loving your liver and supporting it in a really nurturing way is important. And there are lots of herbs that we can look at, like dandelion and burdock, to really support the liver. And then the adaptogens. Adaptogens are herbs that help our bodies adapt to stress. And as we talked about earlier, stress is something that is the biggest driver
Yeah.
of what's going on in our bodies with our hormones and with all of these symptoms that are coming up. And our adrenals are the glands in our bodies that pump out cortisol when we're under stress. And so our adrenals are often also very fatigued and overloaded. And so these adaptogenic herbs um, work along the HPA axis, the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis, and it supports those glands in our body. Um, and uh, and in supporting those, it allows our body to adapt and handle all of the stress much more effectively. And then along with those things, the mindfulness work is so important in helping us to regulate our stress and get our body back into a parasympathetic mode. So it's in that relax and rejuvenate mode. Because if we're always in the fight or flight, we're going to get these full systemic symptoms of, fibromyalgia and chronic
Yeah.
fatigue and autoimmune issues. So all of these pieces work together to help our body to work the way it's meant to through this period, because we are meant um, to go through this period of life, and our hormones are meant to decline, but they're meant to do that in a balanced way. And what we see is all of this stress causing all of our hormones to, really fluctuate. And so
Yeah.
doing what we can to really address the stress is super important.
Yeah, which can be one of the hardest things. I think one of the hardest things, especially in today's world, there is that is really really hard to do, to take yourself out of those stressful situations. So any natural remedies that can help you relieve reduce that stress are really good. So I hope, Louise, that's answered your question. And Malik says, I started menopause about a year ago. Insomnia was the symptom I struggled with most. I started exploring holistic remedies such as magnesium oil, lavender, and valerian tea that helped.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, magnesium is a really, really important um, thing to think about, because our soils are depleted in magnesium because of all of the conventional farming practices that have been going on for the last 100 years or so. And so almost all of us are already depleted in magnesium. And so when we go through really stressful periods of our lives, it's depleted even more. So yes, magnesium topically or orally through our, if you have a source of organic or biodynamic produce, that's a really great way to get magnesium, but it is hard to get it through our food these days. So I find that magnesium glycinate orally as a supplement is assimilated really well by the body. Some of the forms of magnesium aren't assimilated quite as well. So it really, you have to look at the form of magnesium, but also topical magnesium. And that could be as simple as taking an Epsom salt bath. It's not
Okay.
necessarily the best, but Epsom salt is magnesium sulfate. And so that is a form of magnesium. If you can find magnesium chloride crystals, that's assimilated even better, and you can take a bath with those. And as Malik said, there's magnesium oils that you can use topically. Lavender, of course, has been used forever for calming and relaxing, and valerian tea is one of my favorites. It definitely can help with insomnia.
Yeah. And Malik says, I made homemade magnesium oil with magnesium
Yeah.
flakes.
Yep. 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 It's easy to do, and it's a great way to get your magnesium transdermally, which is a good way to assimilate it for your body.
Perfect.
Yeah, those are
And
great suggestions.
yep. And Naomi says, this is brilliant. A much needed reframe. I feel lighter, more empowered, and spiritually connected. It is when you actually reframe the how menopause has been seen, and even though it's more widely recognized now and it's more accepted, it's more talked about and everything, it's still got that menopause. Don't go near her type thing. It's still got that connotation with it,
Mm.
even though it's more people understand it more.
Right, right. And, here in the US, it's just starting to be talked about. I understand in the UK it's different, like
Mm.
people have already started that dialogue around it for a while now, which is wonderful to hear. But in the US, we're a few steps behind you. And we're, we're just beginning the discussion. And so I really want to bring these conversations out more and more because you're right. Here in the US, menopause is medically defined as a deficiency disease. It's defined as a disease. It's considered an illness. And, so that is the connotation that we have, that this is not normal. There's something wrong with us. And especially women in the workplace really are feeling like invisible. And when they do have those times of, maybe there's some brain fog that can happen, or some short-term, memory issues that can happen, they're made to feel like they're not fit to work anymore.
Mm.
And so yes, we do have this very negative connotation still. And what I want women to understand is this is not an illness. It's not a disease. It's a natural part of life for women. It's a part of life not only are we supposed to go through as women, but again, it's this opportunity. We get to go through this as women. And as women, we're cyclical. Our lives are very cyclical. We live in cycles, just like the cycles of nature. We know what to expect every year through winter, spring, summer, fall. We know that nature is a cycle. And while we may not love how cold it gets in the winter, we do understand that we have to have that cycle in order for the next spring, in order for the plants to grow again in spring. They have to go dormant in
Yeah.
the late fall and winter. So there's a reason, and that reason um, is how the creative life force works in this world. And we are such an integral part of the creative life force. We give life, but in order for that to happen, we need to understand these cycles that our bodies go through, and we need to find the opportunities, the gifts in each of those cycles of life. And menopause is one of those cycles, and it has many gifts. And so, if we're able to give our bodies what our bodies need naturally, then our bodies are going to be able to give us what we need from our bodies. And there's that really deep spiritual connection with with us supporting our bodies and our bodies supporting us.
Yeah. And it also, it gives us that opportunity to actually go, I can enjoy life now. I don't have to worry about getting pregnant, or I don't have to worry about looking, you know, looking like a beach babe on the beach or something, because I've got the way my body is now, it's perfect because this is me. I've gone through all this, and I really don't care.
Right, right. Yeah, that's one of the gifts, is that we don't really care about those superficial things anymore. And because of that, I've had many women say, this is actually the best time of my life. I don't have to deal with periods, menstrual cycles anymore. I don't have to deal with worrying about getting pregnant, as you said, anymore. And I have so much more wisdom. And I don't want a 20-year-old body at this time of my life. I want this body that's been through all the things that it's experienced over, 50 or 50 plus years, as I'm, going through this transition, or 60 years or 70 years, because all what my body is now um, is an accumulation of all of that wisdom, of all of those experiences. If you had children, your body bears the marks of having those children, and it's a badge of honor. It's not something to get rid of or change or gloss over, and all those wrinkles, those are all the times you smiled, all of the happiness shows on your face. And so if we can really love our bodies for everything that they have taken us through in our lifetimes, and really respect that wisdom that we've achieved through our bodies carrying us through this lifetime, then we can really deepen that connection. And I think that's a big part of a lot of the symptoms that we experience is our body saying, look, I'm talking to you, are you hearing me?
Yeah.
This is what I need right now. Yeah.
Yeah, and you're right. It's tuning in with with what your body is saying that what it actually needs, not what you think it needs, but what it
Mhm.
actually does need from you for it. And Louise says, "Thank you. Will those things help lower blood pressure, reduce pain too? Great to hear alternatives."
They very well could. It depends on your circumstance. A lot of times, um, the pain and even high blood pressure that we're having is because of inflammation in our bodies. And what we know scientifically is that a lot of the inflammation we experience comes from stress. Stress causes inflammation. And so there may be other things going on. I don't know, with you particularly, Louise. But if inflammation is what's beneath some of those symptoms, then yes, those you ch- um, really looking at your diet and addressing it holistically and adding a few herbs in there can really help with those things too. One thing a couple of things that are really great for lowering blood pressure are garlic. Garlic is a great natural um, remedy for lowering blood pressure, and it's a food, so you don't have to worry about overdoing it. Um, hibiscus hibiscus tea is not only really delicious, but it helps lower blood pressure. And hawthorn berry is one of those herbs that's very food like. It's very nourishing to the heart. It actually rebuilds heart muscle.
Oh wow!
It's called a tropho-restorative, which means something that can rebuild the tissues of the body. So it's an herb that not only helps to address symptoms, but it really actually is food for the heart. And again, very few contraindications. But I would work with an herbalist if you want to go the herbal route, because you really do need to either have some level of education in herbal medicine yourself, or work with someone who knows. Um,
Yeah,
but those are a few things that could help lower blood pressure naturally. And again, pain is almost always due to inflammation. So reducing stress is going to be the first thing to look
yeah.
for.
And Louise says, "Yep, stress would make sense. Thank you." And of course, we kind of like get into that cycle, don't we? It's like, okay, stress, I've got the inflammation. So the inflammation then gives me more stress, and then the stress gives me more inflammation. And it's like, let's just do one thing just to break that cycle, just slightly
Mhm.
to kickstart the rest.
Right, exactly. Yeah, it can be this downward spiral. And like you said, you just need to shift something to break the pattern.
Yeah. Yeah, and there, and in fact, I mean, in the UK, there are actually naturopaths who deal specifically with menopause.
Yeah.
And that's so there's loads of different people that you can go to that will help you. And Malik says, "What's the best holistic remedies for brain fog?"
Again, it's going to depend.
Yep,
We're all unique, and one thing is not necessarily going to help everybody. But something as simple as using rosemary as an aromatherapy, um, rosemary essential oil, diffusing that. rosemary has been known for years as the herb of remembrance
Yeah.
because it helps sharpen your brain. It helps sharpen your focus and your memory, and so it can like cut through that brain fog. A lot of times with brain fog, we really need to start with nutrition. Really look at what is in your daily diet that could be um, again causing maybe some low levels of inflammation, and also what we can add in there. Our brains are the most important organ in our bodies, right? And so we really need to make sure that what we're eating is really um, nutritionally dense. And most of us, even those of us that have been working on our diet for years and years and years, can always use a refresher to say, "Oh, actually, I realize I'm low in B vitamins, or I'm not getting enough vitamin D, especially in the northern hemisphere in the winter."
Yes.
We don't have the ability to make that naturally with the sun, and so that's a big one. Um, but one herb that is really easily accessible for almost anybody is sage. Just culinary sage. There's a reason it's called sage. When you think about what does the word sage means,
Sage
it means
means
wise
it's with
one.
yeah,
Right? It means wisdom, which correlates to brain health, brain function.
and it's
Um,
easy to grow.
It's easy to grow, and if you can't grow it, you can usually find it in an herbal store, organic, or sometimes you can find it in the culinary section in organic. I would definitely look
Oh,
for
yeah, definitely look for the organic
yeah,
ones.
sage. Um, but yeah, it's accessible to just about anybody. And making a strong sage tea and drinking it a couple of times a day can not only help your mental acuity, but it can also really help with hot flashes. It dispels heat in the body. So if it's night sweats or hot flashes, it can really help there too. And but not a lot of people also um, remember that correlation with okay, sage. That means wisdom. That speaks to brain health there. So and there are many other herbs, but again, um, it would depend on your specific
Yeah.
situation. There might be some that are better than others. I'll just recommend one more, and it's an adaptogen herb. We talked about adaptogens and why they're so important, but one of them that I find that really helps mental clarity is holy basil, which is
Okay.
also called tulsi. It's an Ayurvedic herb, um, but it is used around the world as an adaptogen. And and again, it's one of those very safe herbs. It's related to, it's like a cousin to regular culinary basil, which can also help. But holy basil is specifically an adaptogen. So it helps your body on many different levels, but it definitely does help with the mental clarity.
Brilliant. And Malik says, "Thank you. That's really helpful." Yeah, it is. Yeah, and I mean, and again, it's kind of like when you think about it, you look at different plants and herbs. The names they've got do tell you what they can do for your body, or even I think I remember seeing something what the roots look like or what the leaves look like correlate with parts of your body.
Right, that's the doctrine of signatures, and that goes back many hundreds of years. When physicians hundreds of years ago noticed that some plants, like walnut, a walnut looks like a brain.
Yeah.
Walnuts are another thing that is really helpful for brain health. So yeah, that does sometimes happen and is so helpful when you can actually see what the plant is good for just by looking at it.
Yeah, I like that, and it is something we've so much forgotten, and we don't realise that we can do it. So it's great that you can sort of remind us of these things that we can actually use in our lives. So thank you so much for that. Now, as everyone who watches this show knows, each week I like to ask my guests whether they would like me to do a mini guided meditation or put an angel oracle card for themselves and those watching. So, Vanessa, what would you like me to do?
I would love an oracle card.
Oracle card. Okay. Funny enough, I have the cards here. So, as always, so it's always a bless the cards. And of course, when I do the cards, I do the cards for what you need to know for your highest good at this moment in time. Because although I work with the past, we work with the past to heal and clear so we can be in the present. And when I take people into the future, it's so they understand and know the future so they can come back to the present. So it's always what we need to know for our highest good moment time. So, what does Vanessa and everyone who's watching this live or the replay need to know for their highest good at this moment in time? Okay, we'll go with that one because that one wants to come out. So we have got embracing enthusiasm, shout to the heavens with happiness.
Mm.
Isn't that a gorgeous card? Natural looking as well.
Yes, lovely.
Um, and that. And it is, sort of like saying, to you and Vanessa, um, to Vanessa and everyone watching, it is, be enthusiastic about what you're doing, about what you're saying, everything that you've got about you and what you can do, you know, every tiny little thing, there's always something you can find happiness in, and it's embracing that all the time. And again, going out in nature, working with herbs and things like that. Again, it's allowing you to embrace nature, to show that enthusiasm um, on here. So when you were talking, Vanessa, you can see how passionate you are about this and how enthusiastic. Um, you are, and Malik has just said, I've started an online introduction to herbal medicine course.
Yay, wonderful.
So again, that's, you get enthusiastic about something, and it's amazing what it can actually create and bring into you. So yeah, that's a beautiful card to come out. So keep doing
Absolutely.
what you're doing, and keep shouting it from the rooftops. And
Mhm.
that's so that more women can actually hear this message, and actually take back control of their bodies, and embracing the menopause as this beautiful thing that is a rite of passage. It's something
Exactly.
we something to embrace, to enjoy. It's unique to us.
Mhm. Absolutely.
And that so okay, I know obviously kind of, is there a natural remedy for arthritis?
Yes. I believe there's a natural remedy for everything.
Of course.
But again, that's going to go back to inflammation. It's going to go back to your diet. I can say that turmeric and ginger are really wonderful at addressing inflammation on that level. They're very effective for arthritic conditions. If you are going to take turmeric, which again, those are food like herbs. So when you are looking at the food like herbs, you don't really have to worry about too many contraindications because they've been used as foods for centuries, if not thousands and thousands of years. But make sure if you are going to take like a turmeric supplement that it has a little bit of black pepper in it because turmeric doesn't assimilate very well in our bodies. You have to take a lot of it to have an effect. But black pepper is a potentiator. It boosts the effects of different herbs and turmeric specifically. Just a little bit of black pepper can make it 2,000 times more bioavailable when it's with turmeric. So, but yeah, turmeric and ginger are some of the um, big names in the herbal field when it comes to arthritic inflammation.
Yeah, I actually use the turmeric myself. So sort of like I've hot chocolate every day, but made with pure cacao. So it's
Mhm.
not any of the artificial stuff. And I always put some cinnamon powder, some turmeric, and some black pepper in it.
Mm, delicious.
And I find, I find if I don't do it, my knee starts playing up again.
Yeah, yeah. Cayenne also. is very, the capsaicin in cayenne is very effective for arthritic pain. And so adding a pinch of cayenne into, your golden milk, or your turmeric chai, or like you said, your cocoa that you add those in can be, can make a big difference.
Yeah. And Louise says, thank you.
You're
Um,
welcome.
And thank you, Louise, and thank you, Malik, for asking these questions because they're questions that other people that are watching may have wanted to ask and thought, "Well, I don't know if I want to ask that." So thank you so much for asking those questions because they do help other women, or even even men who suffer from arthritis or pain or inflammation. It's good for them as well. They can also use herbal remedies. It's not just for women.
Right. And men go through their own version of menopause.
Yeah,
The andropause is what it's been officially called. And so all of this can help men as well to a certain
yeah.
degree.
Exactly. And again, it's finding, a good herbalist or a naturopath,
Mhm.
homeopathic a person to actually work with these things, and kind of like with checking with your doctor as well for certain
Absolutely.
things.
Absolutely.
Um, and that, but it really is go with your body. What does my body feel like? How does it feel? If I think about if I take turmeric, how does that feel to me? Oh, my
Mhm.
body's sort of like going, oh yeah, I quite like that, or no, it's not. So you think of something else. So again, it's tuning into your body, working with a homeopath, herbalist, etc., and to some extent taking guidance from your doctor. But it's always your own decision
Mhm.
on that. And Louise says, "Thank you both. I need to hear this today and a positive perspective on the menopause." And that's it. We need we need to have more positive spins and on the menopause because it is a beautiful thing for us.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We need to change those negative connotations that our society has. If enough of us talk about it, then, it might even get back to where it was in some cultures hundreds of years ago, where young women actually looked forward to menopause. That was going to be like the most exciting time of their lives because they understood that then they were going to have this, really potent wisdom to help not only themselves, but their communities.
Yeah, perfect. So, Vanessa, do you have any more insights or thoughts to leave our viewers, or do you think you've covered everything that you need
Well,
to?
I think we've covered a lot, but I just want to say thank you to those people who have been watching live and asked questions. Um, Thank you so much for just being vulnerable to share what's going on with you. And I do just want to stress how important it is, I believe, to tap into your intuition so that you can feel confident taking ownership of your health and making the best decisions along with the other supports you have in place, the other people that you have. I think it takes a community. It's
Yes.
not we have to know everything, we have to do all of the study ourselves, but I think it's important that we take that ownership to say, okay, here's how I feel, you know, and I have an herbalist or I have a general practitioner or, all of these people who are my team to help me make the best decisions for my health.
Yeah. And again, it's talking to other like-minded women, other women who are going through the same thing as you, creating those communities with each other. Because you get these ideas, these thoughts, oh, so and so's doing that. Okay, well, I'll give that a go, and just seeing you pass that wisdom around, and it is that support network
Hmm.
um,
So
that you can have. And Kay says, I've taken turmeric with bioperin for years for rheumatoid arthritis, stops all the pain and knots I used to have. I'm an RN and it works better than those pricey drugs with all those side effects.
that's a great
Uh,
testimony.
That is, yeah, a great testimony. So thank you, Malik, for saying that, and thank you, Kay, for that perspective. It's absolutely brilliant to have someone like you come and sort of like, you know, give your opinion on what works for you with what you do. So I hope everyone that you've enjoyed this conversation and found it insightful, as I know I have. And thank you for your comments to say that you have. So, Vanessa, if people want to connect with you, how do they do that?
Well, thank you. Speaking of community, I have a community on Facebook called You Can Feel Marvelous in Midlife Naturally. And that's a great way to get that support and the community around this time of life. I also have a website, which is called Herbs of Grace Healing Arts. And you can see all of my social links there, or get in contact with me through email, through my website.
Yeah, perfect. And Malik says, I've never been keen on pharmaceutical meds. I don't even take paracetamol. I rarely take anything like that at all myself. Yeah, I tend to stick to more herbal stuff on my teas or
Mhm.
whatever. I love pine needle tea. I just love it
Mm.
so much. So thank you so much, Vanessa, for sharing your wisdom. It's been absolutely brilliant you having you on the show, and I'm pretty sure we could continue with so much more
Oh, yeah, all
um,
day long.
to talk about. So, if you're happy, sometime later this year, we'll get you back again, um,
Absolutely.
because that'll be absolutely brilliant. So, if everyone that has been watching this live at a later date, if you are ready to remember your divine presence and step into your spiritual multidimensional path, but you feel lost, confused, stuck, or alone, then please do feel free to reach out and connect with me, and we can arrange a free video call to discuss where you are now and how you can move your life forward to take charge of your destiny so you can spread your wings and soar. And of course, please feel free to join my weekly newsletter and receive a free future life progression recording where I take you into a future lifetime to get guidance and clarity that you can use in your current life, as well as a couple of other free gifts for you. And again, thank you everyone so much for watching. I'd like to invite you to share this video, as I'm sure there are more people who feel lost and want to get clear on their destiny just like you, and both men and women who want to understand the menopause, both for females, for women and for men, as well, as an understanding. Then please, if you're watching this on YouTube, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell button to be notified when the show goes live, or I post new guided meditations, because each subscription really, really does help. And I look forward to you all joining me same time, same place next week. So again, thank you all. Thank you, Vanessa. And I'll see you all soon. Bye.